Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Najah binti Ahmad. I am from Group Y. My metric number is 054661. I am from ISM Usuluddin Semester 3. Now, our group want to present to you about the falsafah hadithah, awamil nash'atuha wal khasa'isuha al-'amah. Okay, now I want to present to you the terms about the falsafah ilmu nafsi wa ilmu ijtima'. في في مقدمته here. Historian of philosophy have divided its general story into four basic era. أولاً حبكة الفلسفة القديمة أو يونانية. It's began with the emergence of the philosophical thinking in Greece, especially the Thales, who was the first to contemplate the origin of universe. It includes prominent scholars such as Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and what branched out from them from different schools in addition to elite schools before Epicureanism and Stoicism. ثانيا حقبة الفلسفة عنصري الوسطى. That's start from the third century when the clergy was taken. The Christian reconcilies Greek philosophy with Christianity, creating the religious philosophical symmetry, and includes such prominent scholars as Origen, Saint Augustine, and Saint Thomas Aquinas. ثالثة حقبة الفلسفة حديثة, which begins with the European Renaissance in the 15th centuries and ends with the death of Hegel in 1831 years. وأخيرا حقبة الفلسفة معاصرة والمستمرة حتى على الآن. هي modern philosophy includes scholars such as Francis Bacon, René Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, John Locke, David Hume, and later Emmanuel Kant. After that, in fact, this division of the histories of philosophy follows the historical divisions of the age. First, the histories of Greek philosophy is also the history of the spirit of the city-state system that transforms into the Roman imperial system. Second, the history of medieval philosophy is the same as the history of the spirit and supremacy of the Christian religions, the rules of feudal states, the Catholic Church in the West, and Orthodoxy in the East. Third, the history of modern philosophy is the same as the histories of the culture and the European Renaissance and the age of Enlightenment from the 15th century to the end of the 18th century, and it is also the history of the emergence of modern national state with the monarchies. Fourth, the history of philosophy is linked to a specific culture and a specific political system, which indicates that philosophy is linked to its era and does not live in ivory towers as some believe, that rather it is an expression of its era and the reflections of its culture and its political and social systems. After that, historians differ in determining the reference point at with the story of modern philosophy begins. Many believe the Descartes is the basic point at the beginning of modern philosophy, and they call him the father of modern philosophy. And the others argued that Francis Bacon was the initiation of modern philosophy, and other that the starting point of modern philosophy is found at these two. The two philosophers together begin among the first modern philosopher. They both start their own approach to modern philosophy. After that, first generation spectre philosophies arise from the development of the world in it so that the climate becomes suitable for the emergence of philosophy, as happened in Greece when the philosophers expired. Then they spread in Islamic countries and as well, and the same was the case in Europe when the modern philosophy era arose. The Spanish recaptures Andalusia and from the Muslim and the Osmanian Empire began, which leads to the movement of geographical discoveries that found many new routes across the world. In addition to the discovery of America, after that, science flourished in Europe as a result of the culture heritage left by Muslims in Europe and Andalusia in particular. So the book of Muslim scholars and philosophers was translated, and modern philosophers such as Descartes and other benefits from them in lecturing their ideas and establishing their philosophical curricula. The expansion of three geographical conquests, movement, and prosperity science in a new atmosphere and fertile ground from the emergence of modern philosophy in Europe.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nuralgena binti Muhammad Rosli. My metric number 05472N1. Today, I will continue about the general factors of modern philosophy. Now, I will go the second factor in the emergence of modern philosophy. How was the emergence of the modern scientific spirit and the flourishing of experimental sciences? This was exemplified in the scientific revolution brought about by the Polish scientist Nicolaus Copernicus with his discovery of the solar system that the world before Copernicus believed. Number 1. Copernicus was not convinced of this naive idea and discovered that the opposite is true, meaning that the sun is stationary and the earth revolves around it. And he also discovered the rotation of the planets around the sun, that is, the solar system. Discovery was one of the factors that led to the loss of confidence in all the philosophies and inherited sciences, especially Aristotle's philosophy. 2. After Copernicus came the German scientist Johannes Kepler, who brought about another revolution in astronomy and mathematics, as he added to the Copernican theory an important amendment which goes to the rotation of the planets around the sun does not take the shape of a full cycle but an oval. This was what helped Isaac Newton then discover the general laws of gravity. Number 3. Senior citizens discovered the close relationship between astronomy and mathematics, as they realized that mathematics is a research tool in astronomy and science in general. And the last one, number 4, and the phenomenon of acceleration and deceleration of speed, and put his theories in a accurate mathematical form, which enable the scientists to discover the mathematical character of physical laws. He also defend Copernicus' theory in the solar system and make a number of astronomy observations to tweak the theory and discover the number of moons of Jupiter. The factor in the emergence of modern philosophical thought is the emergence of the European Renaissance, beginning in the 15th century, which was a comprehensive intellectual, literary, and scientific silver. Number 1. The beginnings of the Renaissance appeared when the Turks conquered Constantinople in 1990s in the 5th century, 1453. Number 2. This literature focused on the humanities, which led to the emergence of a strong humanism in European thought, and the revival of the Greek heritage did not prevent European thoughts from taking a critical position on it. And the last one, number 3, a broad and comprehensive critique of Aristotle's philosophy taught the use of the philosophy of Plato, Plotinus, and Neoplatonism, which relies on general theoretical and mental introductions and a pure mentality and emphasize the need to rely on observation, experimental, and introduction.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nورالجنة binti Zulkifli, 054789. So today, inshallah, I will going to present about the 4 factors of modern philosophical thought. So, what does it mean by the 4 factors of modern philosophy? Okay, first of all, it was also called by the last factors of modern philosophical thought. So, in the last factors of modern philosophical thought, it is also have a religious revival movement that was reformed by the Martin Luther and John Calvin in 1483 until 1546. So, what was the religious revival movement means? It is called the religious revival movement because they use religions to empower and embody and to enslave. Or the meanings here is they use religions names for the purpose to make someone as a slave. And then there's a story behind the religious revival movement, which is when someone who makes a sin and the person wants to repent, or the meaning here, he wants to make a tawbah, but he will not be able to do that directly to God because of he was considered to go to a church and has to seek the forgiveness from someone in charge. So the people in that era don't want to do that because they were forced to pay the money, which is every month they have to pay 10% of their salary, and they have to be donated their money to the church. So that was the start from the religious revival movement that was reformed by John Calvin and Martin Luther. So in this page, we can conclude that the beginning of a modern philosophical thought, it is started from the Italy specifically. So by the mention of the several personality scientists from Italy, such as Galileo Galilei, Giordano, and Bruno, and there was also Leonardo da Vinci, and so on. So we can see here that European Renaissance starts from Italy, such as Bruno, who started the rational movement in Italy. And also we have Da Vinci, who started the artistic Renaissance with Michelangelo in Italy. And we also have Galileo Galilei, who started the scientist Renaissance in Italy. So we can conclude here that modern philosophical thought was started from Italy. But we could not tell ourselves what is the secret in the emergence of the modern thought from Italy. Or we do have a question in our minds that why did the Italian thinkers is responsible, or why did they concentrated so much on the philosophical issues? So the answer is, during the Renaissance era, Italy was the region that is the closest to the Arab East, and it is also in Italy the scholars who establish classic literary works, and they do translating Arabic philosophical activities into Latin language. So for the next slide, you can also turn on page 8. Okay, so the mawdu' here is general characteristic of modern philosophy. So the first one is falsafatun hadithatun bimajmu'atin minal khasa'isul amah, which is, it is general characteristic of modern philosophy and the factor responsible for the establishment. For the example, mostly all of them, or most of the thinkers, are from West. So they are Westerners. By this, we can conclude that it is related to the region or a place where the founders of that idea live. And more example is the rationalism or the movement was more related to Italian, right? So, in another word, this philosophy was founded by the Italian originally, and for the particular one was founded in England, which is Francis Bacon. So the next slide is you can turn your page to page 9. Here we will talk about the first characteristics in the modern philosophy, which is al-aqlaniyah. So the al-aqlaniyah is a rationality, or it is a characteristic or a features of modern philosophy. And they also have rationalism, which is the movement that brought about the rationality that is founded by a group of scholars. And most of the modern philosophers were rationalists, which means they believe that all humans' actions are come from human stock, and they are all related to human stock. So whatever you do, the result is on your rational process. But not all of them do believes in rationalism. The rationalism or rational movement is a movement that was comprised by Descartes and Spinoza. That's all from my presentation. Assalamualaikum and thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nظيفة binti Muhammad. My matric number 054753. Today, I will present about characteristic, humanism and individualism. Characteristic number 2, humanism. What is humanism? Humanism is an intellectual and philosophical movement of the Renaissance that originated in Italy between the 14th and 16th century. It was interested in development of thought until it had a great influence in areas such as psychology, politics, and other social sciences. During the Renaissance period in Europe, a stage of thought transformation was generated in Italy that freed itself from the limitation imposed by the religious doctrine that had governed in the Middle Age. To focus on the development of science and art, rescue the Greek Latin philosophical influence and focusing. This movement, known as humanism, spread rapidly throughout Europe in the 14th century, causing the great change in the Catholic Church, education, letter, art, and science. By the middle 16th century, humanism had lost much of its power. Europe was engaged in a war of word, idea, and sometimes weapon over the nature of Christianity, the Reformation, and humanist culture was overtaken by rival Greek, becoming semi-independent discipline governed by the area faith. Contribution. During the Renaissance era, there were many figures who contribute to the progress of humanism, and among them was Bernardino Montana de Montserrat in medicine, Dante Alighieri in literature, El Greco in art, Galileo Galilei in astronomy. Next is characteristic number 3, individual. Individualism is believing in individuality, diversity, and freedom over authority and conformity. By Descartes' time, medieval scholastic debate had settled that the individuality of the individual could not be defined by pointing to some special quality of the individual encounter, distinction to other qualities, and that is not something given to an individual from the outside. An individual is the source of her own individuality. The concept of individuality, therefore, has to be defined by self-reference. In the 7th century, on the basis of the Christian religious worldview, there was a tendency to associate individuality with libertinage. That's all from me. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is عيدا binti Rosli. My metric number is 054686 and I will present about النسقية. الفلسفة المحدثين الفلسفة نسقية أو نظامية. And modern philosophers were found of constructing their idea in the form of an integrated philosophical pattern. The philosophical system is a general doctrine that contains a certain orientation and a theory of knowledge. Another is ethics, politics, and last one metaphysics. Metaphysics according to the position of the philosopher on metaphysics, whether by accept or reject. And meaning of epistemology is a Greek word translated as a theory of knowledge. Epistemology is a foundation area for other areas of philosophy. And metaphysics is another Greek word which refer to the attempt to describe the nature of reality. And archaeology. Archaeology, the Greek word of words is related to two different areas of words. There are first moral words or ethics. Ethics is a discipline concerning human moral behavior and raises the question of right or wrong. And epistemology or knowledge always take first place in every philosophical system and follow metaphysics. Whether accept or reject, ethics, and finally politics. And modern philosophers have retained from putting their ideas in the form of a philosophical doctrine, and they have preferred writing on various different topics that took the form of articles or intellectual literature that include a variety of topics, such as our of essentialism, and the philosopher of the Frankfurt School are focused on one issue only, while be careful not create philosophical doctrine from them. To point out another characteristic of modern philosophy that is related to it alone and will continue in the era of contemporary philosophy. The future was represented in the association of philosophy current with nationalism. Okay. One, Fatiyarul Akli was slash Tiyarul Francia. Two, one, Fatiyarul Akli was slash Tiyarul Francia was exclusive decree Milbranch and Pascal. Okay. Two, Fatiyarul Tijari was exclusive in Genesia. Bacon, Hobbes, Locke, and Hume. Okay. Three, Fatiyarul Naqdi, the Khan Imwan, what it means representative, okay, and its seems that the reason for this due to the nature of each to these people. For the English people are the commercial and practical people, who do not care about